We are on episode 2 of season 2 of the Twilight Zone. This one's called The Man in the Bottle, and it's about a genie that grants you 4 wishes. Not 3, you get 4. And it mixes in a bit of a morality tale, and also, of course, the wishes going badly, but maybe not as badly as you would think. Since the 2 characters here are Arthur and Edna Castle, and they're actually good people. They own a little shop that has a lot of interesting trinkets. They seem to specialize in bottles and vases, and they get a bottle from an elderly woman who found it in the trash can, and she just wants $1 for it. And you see, Arthur Castle is a very nice guy, and he has a problem that he gives too much of his money out to other people. So when people come in and sell things to the shop, he gives them too good of a deal. He's like a pawn shop owner with a heart of gold. And so she sells him this vase for $1. This episode came out on October 7th of 1960, so $1 back then would be about $11 now. So he gives her $11, she gives him this vase, and it accidentally falls on the floor, and a genie appears who looks like this. That's right, the genie has a bit of acne scarring, and he seems nice at first, but of course we learn at the end that he's a bit of a bad genie. And the first thing Arthur wishes for, since this genie grants him 4 wishes, he wishes for his display case to be repaired. He's just testing things out to see if this genie actually is who he says he is, though he did just see him appear out of this vase. Who knows, maybe he was drinking too much and thinking he was hallucinating. So this genie is able to repair this case, and now Arthur goes to what everybody would go for, money. Of course you would ask for money. I don't even want to say it's a generic answer, it's just the obvious thing to ask for. It's what I would do too, and you would do as well. So he asked for $1 million. And what happens next is quite funny. I don't want to say I predicted it, but one thing I've noticed with these episodes that involve a monkey's paw or a genie is they're kind of unrealistic when they give people money. Because what would happen if you got a ton of money? Like if someone just handed you $100 million. It would be cool, but you would have a hard time actually getting that money into your bank account. What are you going to show up at the bank with $100 million? You're going to have the IRS on you in 2 seconds. And that's actually what happens to Arthur Castle. He needs to go back to the Breaking Bad episode where they tell you how to launder the money and clean it. This guy's just screaming at the top of his lungs to everyone in the neighborhood that he has $1 million. It's sitting on his floor in the shop, and he starts giving away this money to people in the neighborhood, telling them to buy cars for themselves, take vacations, and he finds himself in the crosshairs of the IRS. Now, the way this unfolds is, of course, unrealistic. It's not like if a genie gave you $1 million, the IRS would show up the same day. You'd have to file taxes for the year previous. It's a bit of a funny scene. The IRS comes to the Castles and gives them a tax bill. And I think this is Rod Serling, who of course wrote this episode, making fun of the tax laws at the time, because as a lot of people brought up, especially in politics, people will constantly bring up the tax rate of the 50s because they're so astronomically high. Here is the tax rate in 1960 that was put in place in the 50s. So yes, we can see here, if you made $200,000 in income, you'd be paying 91% in taxes, but this is a bit misleading because the actual effective tax rate for the top 1%, so that was $200,000 in 1960, you were in the top 1%, was actually 42%. But this is Rod Serling making fun of the fact that their tax rates were so high back then. Though if the effective tax rate is 42%, you're basically paying 42%. There are a lot of write-offs. So I'm not sure why people always bring up that the tax rates in the 50s were so high, because you could put the tax rate at 99%. If no one's paying 99%, might as well be 42. But it does seem like for the middle class, the tax rates were quite a bit higher than they are now. And so the IRS gives them a bill, adds in some state taxes, and now they owe 94% of the money that they just got from this genie. There's actually a missed opportunity, I think, to, instead of the IRS agent handing them a tax bill the same day they get the money, which would never actually happen, them to actually investigate them and ask them, so where'd you get this money from? You just somehow have $1 million just sitting in your shop? Are you selling the drugs? Are you stealing ham radios and selling them on the black market? That's actually a more realistic proposition. This shop that is broke all of a sudden has an influx of $1 million. So I think he should have gone that route, but either way, he's got to keep the thing moving. It's still the best scene of the episode and shows that Rod Serling is thinking a bit smarter than most people. Because once again, If you got a ton of money, it would be hard to actually get that money into your account. I hope nobody asks too many questions. But if your income all of a sudden goes from $50,000 a year to $10 million a year, there will be questions asked. Or you could just not report it to the IRS, which I'm sure is what they're planning on doing. So far I think this episode is really good. It's keeping my interest, and both the characters are lovable, but also turning into greedy characters, as everybody would if they actually were given a genie. The main character Arthur is played by Luther Adler, who was in the great movie DOA, the film noir movie, as Magic, and also House of Strangers as Joe. His wife is less impressive in this episode, Edna. She doesn't really seem to have a personality of her own. Most of this is focused around Arthur. She warns him at first to not even do these wishes, but once he starts getting money, she's on board. She's played by Vivian Janus, who was in 2 episodes of I Love Lucy as Luann Hall, and some other TV shows like Ben Casey and Lux Video Theater. I like the portrayal of Arthur Castle. He's someone who is trying to think through what are the best wishes for him to get after this IRS thing fails, since they gave away a lot of the money and now they have a tax bill for 94%. He tries to rack his brain for something he could wish for that the genie can't screw him over. So he decides to be a leader of a country. And what happens next, I think, is a bit goofy. You can almost guess what leader this genie is going to have him be. It's going to be the H-Man himself. But it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, since he goes back into World War II. Adolf Hitler is in his bunker about to end his life. That's the leader he gets to be as. But this is Arthur's fault as well. The genie even warns him, like, choose which leader? You want to choose which country? And Arthur himself says no. Big mistake. I'm sure he didn't anticipate the genie was going to send him 15 years back in the past, turn him into the most hated man on planet Earth. He has 3 wishes down, and he uses his last one, his 4th wish, to just return back to normal, showing that he should just be thankful for what he has. And this genie, of course, was evil. After all, though when he first met him, he didn't exactly come off that way. He seemed to actually want to help him. So my wish for this being a genie episode where people actually get the wishes that they're granted without the genie screwing them over, of course, did not come to pass. But it's a little more realistic, exception of him going back to World War II, of how this would actually play off. And I think the character Arthur is quite smart. He gets a little power hungry at the end, wanting to be a leader of a country. But it's actually hard to think of what to wish for in a way that you can't be screwed over by this genie. So I'm going to give The Man in the Bottle a 7 out of 10, even though it's a bit uneven. I genuinely like the characters, and I think the first half is absolutely amazing, and the ending as well. Just about 3/4 of the way through had me rolling my eyes a bit. I love the part with the IRS. I think Arthur is very relatable, and also nothing that bad happens to him since he's able to go back to his regular life, since he's not a bad person at the beginning. In fact, his one flaw is giving away too much of his money to people in need. So it looks like he's going to go back to his shop, fix his problem with the debt. After he pays that tax bill, he'll have a little money left over, like a couple $1,000s, to get his shop up and running again. The genie was played by Joseph Ruskin, someone you probably will recognize because he was acting up until the 2000s. I mean, I remember seeing him in the movie Smoking Aces. Came out in 2006. And it's almost hard to name something he hasn't been in. I mean, look at this. Till the end of his life, he was in stuff like Scorpion King, Star Trek, and an episode of Bones. Next up is episode 3 of season 2, Nervous Man in a $4 Room. Check out our playlist for the other series that we're covering. We're currently doing every single episode of The Twilight Zone, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Mystery Science Theater 3000, and American Horror Story, and we've done some live streams, so check them out. Thank you.